Hey friends, Josh here. Did you know that every day more than 800 children under the age of 5 die from contaminated drinking water, unhealthy hygiene practices, or poor sanitation? We want to do something to help with that. So we're partnering with World Vision to help bring clean drinking water to a community that needs it. And we want you to join with us in this. All we're asking is that you go and purchase a t-shirt from our merch store, and a portion of the proceeds from that shirt are going to help us pay to have a well installed in a community that needs it. And we only need to sell 30 shirts for this. So we hop on our merch store, get one of those shirts, and help us provide clean drinking water to one of these communities. Hey, I also want to thank you for listening to today's episode of the podcast. The guys are going to be talking about church denominations: Methodist, Presbyterian, Lutheran, Baptist. Why do we have so many? Are they biblical? Which one's the best? And which one was Jesus? Probably Southern Baptist. So listen, I think you're going to have a good time. I do want to let you know that I'm not a part of this podcast, so you're probably going to enjoy it a lot more. So I hope you enjoy it. Comment at the end. We'd love to hear what you think.
Affirmative.
Welcome to the Dude Facts Podcast. 4 guys united by their love for coffee and corny jokes come together to talk about Christian culture and the ups and downs of ministry. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy. The podcast starts now.
Affirmative.
Bag of wolves. That's how we start our show. Greetings and welcome to the Dude Facts podcast. Got Ryan and Grant here. You may notice Josh is not here, so I think that we just need to pause and have a moment of silence. All right, we have a show packed full of goodies for you guys. One, we have our epic movie character tournament update that's going to come up. We'll talk about that in a minute. We've got some great comments and interactions that Ryan is going to share with us, and he's going to announce the winner of our free t-shirt. And we have a top 5 coming up as well, which you're going to want to stick around for. As always, we got Grant's dad joke, and it's going to be extra sensual today. And we're talking about denominations today. Ooh. Are denominations biblical? How do we effectively cross denominational lines for the sake of the gospel? But this week has been wild. There's been a lot of news. I just heard, actually on my way home today, that the CDC is now warning of this deadly fungus that is in health facilities in the U.S., which for me, I just wonder, like, how in the world is a deadly fungus just like floating around in health facilities? But apparently people are making comparisons of this deadly fungus to the video game / show Last of Us. And they're afraid that we're now going to live that out for real, that we're all going to become zombies. I've never seen this show, so I'm speaking ignorantly. But I've never seen the Walking Dead either. But I just had the question. It made me think, like, why zombies? Like what is the fascination with zombies? What do you guys think about zombies?
Well, I didn't know that there was a fungus among us, so that's a little terrifying. There is.
Yep. Now we're in trouble.
Well, I got into zombies because of the band The Cranberries. Remember that song?
Zombie.
Oh, yeah.
Zombie.
I
do like that song.
Andy on The Office singing that when he's. It's always so funny. I quote that regularly.
My favorite cover.
Zombies. I love zombies. As like
Perfect.
A fictional thing, but I don't know if they're real. That sounds mildly frightening, but I don't know about fungus zombies. Would they be different than a normal zombie?
Maybe they walk around saying there's a fungus among us.
Yeah. That's all they do. That's all it does.
You want to become us.
Oh my gosh.
Like, you know those trick candles for birthdays? I'm glad that got used. You know those trick candles you blow out and they come right back? Are zombies like the human equivalent of those?
Yeah.
Like you kill them, they come right back.
And then you try to blow them out and they come back again? Is that what you're saying? Oh.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I
don't
think
know.
so.
So I've never understood the whole undead thing. I think the only time I was sort of fascinated with the zombie movie genre was I Am Legend when that came out years ago.
Oh, yeah.
For some reason, even though it's like the shortest movie ever, it's like 20 minutes. But yeah, it was really interesting. Yeah, go back and watch it again. See how short it is.
Well, he slapped that dude, so I guess we have to boycott that movie now.
Unless he comes back like a zombie.
I don't want to dignify his name, you know.
Yep.
Zombies are interesting. I always, I could do a whole podcast just on movie lore and why things are cool, but zombies have always been such a neat thing. I think they fascinate people because it's like the uncanny valley. Like people, like it's like, oh, it looks like a person, but it's not a person, and that weirds people out. I think that's why they're such a prominent thing in media.
Who do you guys think would make the coolest zombie? Like if anybody that you know comes back as undead.
Arnold.
I would be back.
Oh yeah,
the Governor. I'm back.
He already sounds like a zombie. Yeah,
he does. Well, I used to think it was kind of. I'm not into superheroes. If you saw my breakdown on our TikTok and Instagram, I broke down the wrong thing. Awesome. I called it the wrong thing. My bad. But I don't know half the characters. I was never really into that genre. But I did think that zombies were interesting because they're in the Bible. So we're around Easter time. We've been doing like a 6-week Easter series as a church. And in Matthew it says when Jesus was when he died, it's 27 verse 51. And behold, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom, and the earth shook and the rocks were split. The tombs were also opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. And coming out of the tombs after his resurrection, they went into the holy city and appeared to many. So like, Jesus dies, and then zombies wander Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Jesus Juke.
Jesus Juke. And Peter got his sword back out and just like kept hacking.
Maybe we need to like write a whole new story about that time to really find out if Peter did that. So I think that'd be cool. Yeah, biblical zombies. That's probably the next thing that Christians will like spoof or try to jump on to.
I like they make a pretty cool like graphic novel,
league.
like a Christian graphic novel. Just Peter hacking away at zombies.
I'd watch that.
Call it The Chosen again.
The Chosen Extreme. Well, this week also marked the start of March Madness, and it continues. Brackets are busted everywhere, but we've had some fun with our Dude Facts March Madness tourney. So I'm going to go ahead and share who, based on your votes, people, who is in our Sweet 16 of our epic movie characters fighting each other March Madness bracket. So here we go. Are you guys ready?
Oh, yeah.
All right. In the Hunt Brothers region, we have number 1, John Wick, facing number 13, Chewbacca. And we have number 3, Wonder Woman, versus number 2, Yoda. I'm a little disappointed that Batman and Ethan Hunt both got bounced, but I think there's some great contenders here nonetheless. What do you guys think?
Wait, is Grogu and Yoda, are they different people?
Baby Yoda and Daddy Yoda.
Despite the name is deceiving, but Baby Yoda is not in fact Yoda.
Yes. He just looks exactly like him.
Yep.
Or that we know
so
yet.
confusing.
He might be.
It's true.
Might find
there's
out
some
Yoda-
weird like time travel
doesn't-
business going on.
Yeah. Yoda had a side Yodette.
zipping around in his Star Prize Enter ship and impregnating other
the
Yodas.
most exciting one, the one I'm most excited for out of that group is John Wick versus Chewbacca. I think that'll be a interesting bout.
It's going to get hairy. Nothing like warming up at 2 a.m. with a sweaty hunk. That's right. John Wick. That's the sound effect I needed to find, but I couldn't find it. Well,
Ryan, I know you got a Chewbacca.
Like a impression? Not
a personal
really.
one?
Well, I don't know if I can do a big one.
That sounded like my dog when he yawns.
I sound like that when I yawn, so
All right, in our dad joke region, we have number one. He barely survived because the votes were close, but number one, Harry Potter surviving the Spider-Man upset versus number 5, Captain Marvel. And we have number 11, Grogu versus number 2, Jason Bourne. And let me tell you, can we please get a buddy cop movie with these two guys on the beat? Because that would be awesome. I'd totally watch that.
Oh, yeah. Wait.
Well, I mean, if Harry Potter could survive Voldemort, I'm glad he survived whoever
Spider-Man.
He beat Spider-Man? I don't know.
Yeah, there you go.
I take issue with that.
Down.
Yeah.
He couldn't even beat an actual spider, much less a Spider-Man.
Oh, that's true.
Did he not like stab? Never mind. I was going to make a Lord of the Rings joke. I can't remember the name of that spider.
I don't remember that spider. Shelob. Yeah, Shelob. Yeah.
Shelob. Lob.
We probably both pronounced that wrong, and somebody's going to correct us.
Well, and it's 2023, so it's
that's
person
true.
lob.
Yes. Got to be politically correct. Well, there was a lot of love for Grogu in the voting. He took down, sort of disappointing, but I can understand. But he took down Walker, Texas Ranger. I was sort of hoping he would advance. Chuck Norris, rest in peace.
Cordell deserves some justice on that one.
Bounced from the tourney. Well,
and he was so irritated, he kicked the horse in the neck, and now its descendants are known as giraffes.
We could do a whole tournament just on Chuck Norris jokes. Maybe that's next year's March Madness.
I feel like I could see Walker just taking the whole thing, because I don't know if you've ever seen the scene where he just like straight up drop kicks a car that's driving at him.
Oh yeah,
it's one of my favorite Walker Texas Ranger scenes. They're driving at him and just jumps at it and drop kicks through the window. I can do that.
But it's not like you're unbiased, Ryan. Where are you from, Ryan?
Texas, yes.
Oh yeah,
the city right next to where they filmed a large portion.
He's not the Walker, Tennessee Ranger.
So no joke, I was at a, it was actually like a fancy dinner for a prison ministry, outreach that did a lot of great work sending chaplains into prisons. But this was when I was at Midlothian. But I went up and had this dinner, or was invited to this dinner, and sat at a table, and the table next to me, Chuck Norris was there. And he ended up speaking at this. But the thing I was surprised with was how short he was. Because
he's real short.
I mean, he's short, but then when you're standing there, you're just like, man, it's kind of deceiving. You think you could take him, but that's just really deceiving.
It's like you want to pat him on the head, but you also don't want to die.
He also had a lot of makeup on, which was interesting. So, all right.
Yeah,
I was going to say, in our Whittle region.
Sit on your grandpa's knee and whittle.
We have number 1. All the number 1s survived, by the way. Spoiler alert. But number 1, Darth Vader versus number 4, Voldemort. Almost all chalk here. The only, I would say, non-chalk is number 6, Scarlet Witch. Makes sense, though. She's pretty strong. Verse number 2, Superman. The one that got bounced here that I think we may upset the balance of nerdity on TikTok is Goku. So watch out. He got beat.
Although this does set up an opportunity for Harry Potter to face off Voldemort again. It'll be really interesting to see what those two would look like.
Wait, who was Goku facing
on
off
social media
in the first round?
Yeah.
I think he won his first matchup,
Oh, okay.
if I remember correctly, and then he played, I believe, Scarlet Witch and lost.
Oh, okay.
So
I can see that. I thought it would be funny if it was Superman.
I mean, Dragon Ball Z is a very misleading title.
It'd be
Why
funny
is
if
that?
it was Superman, because Superman versus Goku is like a long-standing debate on like just nerd YouTube and TikTok. It's really funny to watch people get really upset about it.
So where do most nerds land in that debate?
Um,
Out of curiosity.
I think most intelligent people
their
realize that
grandma's
they're
couch.
two different characters from different universes that are governed by different things. But a lot of people really go heavy in Superman just because, you know, Superman has just such a long-standing fan base. So I think he usually gets more love. But then you got
And
the
maybe we
anime
should
nerds
say this.
like me who
Who would say Goku?
would say Goku. Yeah.
Oh. So listen here, folks. Ryan is saying Goku is better than Superman. All right. Comment about that.
We want your comments.
And also, if you recall a single episode of Dragon Ball Z that featured dragon genitalia, please comment which episode of the.
I'm dead sexy.
Very misleading title.
All right. We have one more final region, and that is
Somebody left a turd on the bathroom floor.
Josh is here after all. In our dollop region, we have number 1 Thanos versus number 5 Neo, which I think is a great matchup. And also chalk again, number 3 Luke Skywalker versus number 2 Gandalf. A lot of love for Gandalf in the voting. In fact, I think Grogu and Gandalf got a lot of votes. People might just be going with like the lovable characters. Grant said he wants to hang out with Gandalf. Yeah,
I do. His recreation has been legal here in Washington State since
Blowing smoke
2015.
ring?
So I think we'd, yeah.
I think that's the question.
He'd fit in well
Can
here.
Luke Skywalker blow smoke rings like that? Can he make a ship out of smoke and blow through a ring?
that's true.
In what galaxy?
One far, far away. I don't
Or
know.
I guess planet? I don't know where they travel.
What would Luke Skywalker be like in Middle Earth? Would he still have the Force? Or would it be called something else?
The farce.
Probably something in Tolkienese, definitely. But a special thanks to Tyler, who left
Bag
us
of wolves.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
that. And his entire breakdown of the tourney, he emailed us that. So we talked about getting somebody a shirt, somebody that comments on the tournament. Different from the other contest that Ryan's going to talk about in a second, but I think Tyler clearly deserves that shirt. So we're getting Tyler a shirt for his contribution to the tournament.
Bag of wolves.
Yes, not a bag of rolls,
yeah.
but a shirt. But now that the Sweet 16 has been revealed, we are going to put this online and have you guys vote again so you can tell us who's going to be in the Final Four. We're going to record a special dollop this week, put on YouTube, of us revealing then the Final Four so that next Monday we'll be able to tell you who is our champion because it's going to be the same night as the NCAA championship. So all the number 1 seeds are left. If you guys had to pick one that you think is going down like soon, who would you guys say? Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
Yeah, I'd say Harry Potter and Voldemort. I can see them going down.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Voldemort's definitely going down because he's
Just the
playing
whole
Darth.
Harry Potter universe.
Yeah, Harry Potter I think is screwed. Captain Marvel I think is going to smoke his little British booty. He's done.
How was he as a first lieutenant? America.
First
you know?
Lieutenant Marvel.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marvel. Yeah. How did he go through the ranks? See,
I mean, or
I
is
thought
she
you were
a
talking about
ship
Captain
captain? What is
Unqualified.
she the captain of? Like,
That's true.
yeah,
Yeah,
of her soul.
I don't know. And then as Major Marvel, will she be reduced to a staff job? That's a good Army joke. Because at the major level, that's all you do is you sit behind a desk and do staff work. You no longer get to do the cool stuff. So yeah, it's just not as
Here's a
exciting. That's why they
promotion.
have
Now
to.
sit at that desk.
That's why they're constantly captains. So there's this detour real quick. There's this it kind of like the Babylon Bee type site or Onion for the Army. It's called the Duffel Blog. Basically a play on duffel bag, but Duffel Blog, and they always come up with fake news stories. And there was one a few years ago that said Captain America gets promoted to major, now has to write like operation orders all day. So he no longer gets to get out and like kick butt. He's just writing behind the desk. But
Pretty good.
Pretty funny. If you know the Army, it's funny. But yeah, we do thank you guys for your comments, and continue to comment on those as we release it. Speaking of comments, Ryan has got some comments and news for us.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, to start off, like we say every week, please go out there, like, subscribe, follow us on, all the socials, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok while it's still here, get out there and follow us. We're putting out content all the time, and hopefully we'll make you laugh. We love getting interactions from everybody. So drop a comment while you're there. We'd love to see you, say hi. And leading into our comment contest, we had one player and one winner. So, and
That
somebody
sounds-
who I think I need to make a personal apology to. So we have been notified that commenting on our YouTube videos, I keep saying Tad because I think one of the comments was signed as Tad, but a lot of them have not been. And Pam reached out and informed us that Pam is the one indeed commenting on our videos. So Pam, I'm very sorry.
Are you a man?
I'm very sorry, and we will be sure
Pam.
to acknowledge you. And that being said, Pam is the winner of our shirt comment contest.
Yeah.
With
Congratulations.
with two comments, we should say. So first one was the dinghy, which is a reference to the dengue fever.
I want to look for nipples on nuts.
And then also, sorry, Josh, you just lost your man card since your wife is cooking the steak. I just listened to the previous podcast. That one made me chuckle. But yeah,
And he can't defend
We
himself.
didn't give him a hard time for that, and we really should have.
we should have ribbed him a little more. But yeah, so Pam, be on the lookout. We'll be in contact about getting you a Dude Facts t-shirt that you can rep us all around. And to anybody who didn't win a t-shirt, which is most everyone else, go out there and check out our store on our link tree. You can get your own Dude Facts podcast t-shirt, and they are pretty cool, I must say. Like that logo is pretty awesome. So I think
I can't wait till I have one.
oh yeah.
I'm waiting on Josh to buy it for me.
And it'll be pretty awesome. Well, I just love the scenario that people say, "Oh, Dude Facts podcast. What's a Dude Facts?" And you'll say, "I don't know, but you should listen to the podcast."
Listen to the podcast. Maybe you'll find out.
So I should say Tad has been writing us some like DMs, I think, on Facebook. And he's getting very close to guessing the origin of our name. Very close. He's like got the right words. He just hasn't formed them together to say the right thing.
Oh man.
But keep cracking on that because no one has claimed that free t-shirt yet.
Yeah.
So
He's gonna break it.
Yep. That's right. And this is an interactive show. We want to read your comments. I mean,
Oh yeah.
Tyler left a comment and
Bag
we
of
got
rolls.
this now. So yeah, you could have your own sound bite in our show. So we
I
definitely
told
want
him to go to YouTube and comment Bag of Rolls, and he didn't. So he could have gotten 2 free t-shirts, but that's not good.
that. That's right. All right. It's that time in the podcast that everybody loves and that we get a little romantic. It's sensual dad jokes with Grant. Grant, are you ready for me to
Yes.
cue the music?
I am, but a quick admonishment to our listeners: when you're praying at a church, okay, and you're in a group setting, I know you agree with the prayer, but let's minimize the and the yes. Okay, God knows your heart; He knows your amen. Don't make it
Jesus
sensual.
juke.
We need to have our Jesus Juke sponsored, I think.
This Jesus Juke is sponsored by
Sponsored by whatever the name of that mug you have is. I forgot already.
Manscaped.
Ember, yeah. Ember.
Ember.
Send the checks to Grant Welch.
This Jesus Juke brought to you by Vagisil.
That is affirmative.
All right, let's get into the joke.
So a guy told his wife that he quit drinking, but he just couldn't shake the habit. So one day, after work, he goes to a bar, and he drinks a little too much, and throws up on himself. And he starts crying. The guy at the bar looks across and says, "What's wrong, man?" He says, "I just told my wife that I quit drinking, and now when I go home, she'll see the vomit, put two and two together, and know that I was at the bar drinking." He says, No, I have a plan. Just put $10 inside your chest pocket. Say somebody threw up on you and gave you $10 to have your shirt dry clean. And the man says, "You're brilliant." He goes home. "I'm home." His wife comes down the stairs, sees the throw up on his shirt, and says, "Oh my goodness, what? Have you been drinking again? You've been drinking. I know it. Look at the shirt. Where else could the vomit have come from?" He said, No. Some guy the bar threw up on me. I wasn't drinking, but he was. He drank too much, threw up on my shirt, and you know what? He put $10 in my chest pocket so I can get it dry clean. Check it out. Look for yourself. She says, "Honey, there's $20 here." He says, "Yes. He also pooped my pants."
Classic. Oh man,
At least he didn't poop on the floor.
that's true.
Yeah. Somebody left a turd on the
Was
bathroom
it a dollop?
I like it. Well, before we transition into our topic, because it's hard to transition from that, we're going to do a top 5. And since we're talking denominations today, I wanted to highlight something from my denomination. You guys have all obviously have experience with the Baptist denomination as well. I'm not going to highlight baptism by immersion or the inerrant word of God or the cooperative program or anything like that. Those are all great things. I'm talking about potlucks. Ooh. Baptists love their potlucks. So these are the top 5 crowd-pleasing, get you saved again dishes found at a Baptist potluck. So before we get into that, I want to give an honorable sort of shout out to Tad's. Again, we've talked about this. His pork tenderloin Hawaiian roll sandwiches, amazing. We typically would have those for breakfast. So I didn't include it in the typical potluck because I'm thinking about, that picnic after church where everybody brings a dish, that type of thing. But they're great. Didn't include those. Also did not include, and I don't know if either one of you guys were there, remember this, but when Josh and I were at FBC, we did a Hot Pocket potluck buffet of just assorted Hot Pockets, which was phenomenal. Again, not on the list, but I want to give those things a shout out. So here goes. Number 5, the top 5 things found at a Baptist potluck. Number 5 is baked mac and cheese with bacon casserole. Let me tell you, this slapped me sideways. Unreal. How do you make mac and cheese even better? You put bacon and butter in it and make a casserole. But really, you could really go with any mac and cheese dish because I don't know if you can really go wrong.
Yeah, there's bound to be a good baked mac and cheese Baptist potluck.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes also,
and if you're lucky, there's like
cheese.
That's the one you avoid.
Yeah. The one that people.
But if you're lucky, there's like 3 or 4 of them, so you can taste test and see which one's the best.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right, number 4. Number 4 is a classic. It is the old school green bean casserole. A classic dish. You can't top it. It's a staple at every holiday. It's a staple at every Baptist potluck. It's like the Cal Ripken Jr. of potluck dishes. It's just always there, and you can't get rid of it, and it never misses. So, yeah, old school green bean casserole. Grant's making a face. You don't like green bean casserole?
No. You take it to be polite. Okay?
I love this.
I work with a lot of people from other cities, and several of them have come from like the northern Midwest and stuff like that. Are like even like more central or eastern northern, and so they come to Nashville, and then me and another guy I work with. I'm from Texas, he's from Oklahoma, and so we talk about like, especially when Thanksgiving comes around. We talk about like the dishes that we eat and stuff like that. And green bean casserole is one of those that people were like, "What are you talking about, green bean casserole?" And I'm like, "Well, just imagine you take green beans, super healthy, delicious, people love them, and put a bunch of cream of mushroom soup and fried onions on top and make it really unhealthy." It's delicious.
That's how you make green beans in the South.
It's just a soggy mess. I mean, because people use a canned green beans, which are gross.
The good ones,
they're all like they're pre-chewed almost. They're so soft,
like those French cut green beans.
Oh yeah,
that you get out of the can.
I use.
Oh yeah,
and then I cook.
You pour all the juice on it.
Well, and my theory behind that is the French are like, "Haha, stupid Americans! Oh, French cut green beans, put them in water."
I'm French. Why do you think I have
like
this
Borat.
outrageous accent?
Oui.
All
right. Number 3. This one's a little different. I don't know if you guys have had this, but I've had it at a few different potlucks. Listen to me here. This is good stuff. Number 3 is chocolate gravy. So the first time I ever saw this dish, I was like, that's disgusting. Like chocolate, good, gravy, good, but mixed together, no. But then somebody forced me to do it, and I was like shocked right out of my corduroys. I mean, unbelievable. Put that on biscuits, and you got a party. Delicious. It's a dish that is going to make any old Baptist deacon start twerking right in the fellowship hall. Good stuff, I'm telling you. And since I've tried to replicate it and make it at home, can't do it.
I feel like I'm just learning for the first time in my life that chocolate gravy actually has chocolate in it. I thought it was just like a colloquialism for brown gravy.
Well, there's brown gravy, but there's like legit chocolate gravy.
Oh, no. I don't think I've ever had that.
If you put a dollop of it on a bath mat, you'll become infamous.
I might even write a song about it.
Somebody left a turd on the bathroom floor.
All right. Well, speaking of number 2, let's do number 2.
Hey.
So I'm going to admit, I don't like this one that I put at number 2, but I recognize that everybody and their cousin in the South, in the Baptist church, loves this dish. And so I had to give it some love. But number 2 is potato salad. I know many grandmas make their potato salad recipe. I've even heard of some that call their potato salad recipe the Shout Hallelujah potato salad. That's a great name, but I'm just not a potato salad guy. You guys like potato salad?
It's a double-edged sword because it can be really good, but then some people just put a bunch of potatoes and mayonnaise in a bowl.
Yeah. Eat it like cereal.
That's the way Paula Deen would do it.
Yeah. More oil, the better.
Golly.
Southern living, pioneer woman. Yeah.
My Puerto Rican
Sacred.
brother-in-law, he makes actually really good homemade potato salad. And it's got some spice to it. I like it.
Does it have mofongo?
No, I need to ask him if he can make mofongo.
Yeah.
He's made fried plantains before, but never mofongo.
Oh, yeah. So those little fried plantains that are like sort of those like circular, like disc looking things. Oh, man, those are good.
Oh, delicious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Agreed.
Too bad that's not on the list because that's awesome.
No,
all right. Number 1. So the number one crowd-pleasing, get you saved again dish found at a Baptist potluck. The person who would bring this dish was totally lazy, but they were always my personal hero. It's the bucket of fried chicken. It was usually that person that forgot about the potluck until right before church, and so they stayed for worship, and as soon as the pastor came up and started preaching, they would leave. They skipped out on the sermon. They would go and arrive to the potluck just in time with like 5 buckets of greasy fried chicken. You can't beat it. It's just finger licking good.
Oh, yeah. Stop by the KFC on the way.
Whose fingers are you supposed to lick?
I think if you're really a cooperative Baptist, you lick each other's.
Sure.
Amen.
But there's also the people that, like, you know, we're lazy but also put some thought into it. Like, they show up with like their own, like, you know, serving bowl filled with KFC.
It's like, yeah, I made this. Really? Why is there a receipt for
my
KFC?
Uncle Colonel Sanders used to make.
It was good. I mean, so there's part of you that goes into that potluck and you see all these casseroles and you're like, I know these are either totally awesome or completely horrible. And there's a little bit of fear of tasting them. And so the fried chicken was always there as like just a safe haven. It's like, all right, I know that regardless, I can go get me 3 pieces of fried chicken and I'll be good. So it was always there, like comforting you.
Oh yeah.
All right. So what did I miss on the list? What do you guys like at potlucks?
I think my biggest surprise snub of the list was deviled eggs.
Oh,
I felt like deviled eggs was always like, you know, there's never enough of them and they're always gone before you get halfway through the line.
That's true.
What is church? I mean,
that's right. Isn't there? I'm wanting to say I've seen this, and it's sad that I don't have this information, but I think there is like a movement out there at church potlucks to name deviled eggs something else, and I don't know what that is. Maybe at the break we should Google it and let the people know.
I have to think of what they would.
Or is it called devil because you beat the hell out of it, like when you're mixing it?
Call them heavenly eggs.
I don't want to eat his eggs.
He ovulates.
Devil have eggs.
We're about to have an Easter egg hunt at church, right? Because bunnies ovulate.
Who knew? I think we're going to have a special like holiday episode coming up soon. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, the assignment for everyone is to go and watch Jim Gaffigan's stand up on holiday traditions because it's fantastic. Easter, the day that Jesus rose from the dead. How about eggs?
That doesn't make sense.
We'll hide them.
We'll hide them.
Oh man, that's so good.
Well, growing up in Hawaii, like potatoes are not my staple. It's rice. Good, sticky, short grain, Japanese white rice. We're having it tonight. I think we're having it tomorrow. We're having friends over. We're going to make a pot of rice. So some auntie in Hawaii would always make a pot of rice and bring it to the pot.
Anybody make rice salad instead of potato salad?
Yeah, it takes a lot to mash rice. Then it's technically mochi.
Great, did you regularly eat I forget the actual name for it, but it's like the spam rice in a seaweed wrap. It's delicious. Musubi.
Spam musubi.
Those are delicious.
Indeed. I love it. And actually, the place you get them in Hawaii is 7-Eleven. They're always $1. Last time we were back with 2021, I think they're like $1.50 still. So I'd get like a pina colada Slurpee and 2 of those after basketball practice.
Getting one every day.
Perfect.
Heck yeah, man! You guys are making me hungry. I didn't eat before this podcast.
I'm starving.
I crammed like a few nuts in my mouth.
Clip it. Add it to the soundboard.
What? Literally, see. It was one of those things. As soon as it was coming out, I was just like, "Oh man, I can't stop now." I've already said it.
Grant.
keep talking, man.
So we need to get some Michael Scott sound bits in our soundboard.
Perfect.
All right. With that said, this is what happens when Josh is not here to lead
Goes
all
off the rails. Yeah.
like talking part. All right. So we're going to talk today about denominations. Are denominations biblical? How do we effectively cross denominational lines for the sake of the gospel? So that's coming up right after this break. Stay with us. We're glad you're listening to the podcast today. We're going to continue in just a few moments. Wanted to take a quick second to encourage you to listen to another podcast as well called For God So Loved. It is done by my sister Amber, and she's just getting started, so please give her a listen. You can find her on Spotify, you can find her on Apple Podcast and YouTube and other places as well. On the YouTube video, we'll have a link to it below, but you can also check out our Dude Facts social media pages for links to this podcast. So go check it out. Now, enjoy the rest of the show. All right, guys, we are back, and we are going to be talking denominations. Are denominations biblical? How do we effectively cross denominational lines for the sake of the gospel? Before we get into it, let's first define what we're talking about, what we mean by denominations. We're not talking about non-Christian cults. So when we say denominations, we're not talking about Mormonism, Jehovah's Witness, or anything like that. We're talking about Protestant denominations. They came out of the Protestant Reformation, things like Baptist, Lutheran, Presbyterian, Methodist, those type of denominations. And so that's where our discussion is going to center around today. So denominations, are they biblical? What do you guys think?
I thought you were going to say denominations. What are they good for?
What are they good for?
Or absolutely something. I don't know. Well, what's he called, right? John the
Methodist.
Southern Baptist. So the question is, are they good?
Biblical?
Or are they biblical or what? I mean, one might say that religious differs. I mean, there are different religious groups in Scripture, right? Like in the Old Testament times, there were different roles within Judaism, like the scribes and rabbis and the Levites. Like there were different roles, prophets. But then the Pharisees actually traced their lineage to when Ezra and Nehemiah reclaimed the city of Jerusalem. And at that point, Israel writes down the oral Torah, which they believe that Moses receives on Mount Sinai, and all these weird traditions. And then their ancient counterparts, the Korahites, which were known as the Sadducees during Jesus' day. So, I mean, people were kind of compartmentalizing themselves on beliefs before the New Testament. And then after the New Testament, I mean, quickly, there's the church in Jerusalem, there's a church in Rome. There are churches who do have somewhat conflicting views on things. But then you also have interactions like some say, I follow Paul, some say Apollos, some say Jesus. And for me, every time I read that passage, one of these things is not like the other. Like, those are dudes. He's Jesus. But I don't. So, and they're biblical in the sense that it shows up even in the first century.
I wouldn't say just looking at denominations as how they exist in our current, culture and world today. I wouldn't necessarily say that they're inherently not biblical, but sometimes we can let the divides they create among us, that is unbiblical. Because I think there's a lot of things that, denominations will split and they'll argue about, and things that we don't agree on that are largely inconsequential in the grand scheme of it all. I think it's when we let those things divide us to a point that we are hindering ourselves for kingdom work. I think that's definitely a point where it can become unbiblical.
Yeah, and when we use that word, are they biblical? Part of the answer is, short answer is no, in that they're not necessarily encouraged. Jesus isn't going around saying, hey, you should worship in separate denominational contexts. In fact, Jesus is all about unity, unity of the body, having a like mind. But obviously, as Grant was sharing earlier, you do see that sort of playing out, even though maybe it's not called denominations, but different groups of people trying to do what they believe they're called to do by God together, but also at the same time having debate, hindrances. Paul talks about unity in Scripture when there's discord within the different churches. So I think it's safe to say they're not necessarily encouraged, but they happen. And I think it's also safe to say that not everything about denominations is, essentially bad. There's a lot of great things that comes from denominations, but that our goal above the denominational line, is that we are striving to live according to God's word, to honor him with the way we do his kingdom work and share the gospel. And we do that, humbly united with the church of Christ. But yet we reside in this, especially in this culture, this denominational context, as you were talking about, Ryan, and that can be a challenge. What kind of challenges do you guys face or see as you think about denominations?
It's proving that ours is better. I mean, really.
Jesus Juke.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
I just think back to I grew up in a very traditional Southern Baptist church, and I look back on the attitudes a lot of people that I was growing up around had towards other denominations. It'd be like, it would almost become derogatory to call someone by another denomination, but they would be like, oh, you can't trust that person says they're a Methodist or something like that. And just kind of the most ridiculous things it was more of a cultural divide than it was over anything, scriptural, but they would let that come between them to where, instead of, wanting to build up your fellow man, you're looking at somebody who is themselves your brother or sister in Christ and looking down upon them because they're not the same denomination as you, and you have something figured out that they don't. I think that was always one of the things just culturally that I grew up around that always turned me off when people would talk about denominations, because it always just seemed like such a sticking point that, I don't know. It was never helpful, and people, it was very un-Christian like, in my opinion, to see the way people would split themselves along the lines of it.
Yeah, seeing some of the pride and arrogance.
Yeah, exactly.
That comes from that. We have a surprise guest.
Goodness.
Oh, there he is. Woo! And we can't hear him.
Bag of wolves.
Just wanted to make him smile. Maybe he'll pop up here in just a second.
Okay.
All right. He'll come back. So, Grant, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I was raised Presbyterian and non-denominational. We kind of hopped around a lot. And then in seminary, I went to a Southern Baptist seminary. Josh is maybe back.
We still can't hear you.
No, we can't hear you.
I can read your lips.
But this is kind of fun.
Somebody left a turd on the bathroom floor.
I was like, we could play a sound clip for you to hear it.
I heard Josh. Yeah, I think let's be real. The biggest challenge we have right now about denominations is the big study about sexual allegations that came out in the Southern Baptist Convention. Now, the fascinating thing is if you take the same number of churches that was studied in the SBC world and do the same thing with non-denominations or just any other large church, it'll probably be similar statistics. Unfortunately, that's terrible, and those actions are shameful, and they should never happen. But that's a huge stigma. Let's see if Josh is back.
There we go.
Yes!
Yay!
So what are you guys doing here?
Yeah, we're just hanging out with you.
I didn't know you guys were doing a podcast.
I came for the food, and I'm really disappointed.
You guys just didn't invite me to this one?
We didn't.
Yep.
Oh, man. Well, that's all right.
Yeah.
Jesus, Juke.
Starting our side podcast over here.
Is this the one that everybody actually listens to?
Maybe.
No.
So we're actually fresh in the conversation on denominations, and we're just talking a little bit about our personal experiences with how they've impacted or even hindered our ministry a little bit.
All I got to say is Baptist born, Baptist bred, and when I die, I'll be Baptist dead. That's all I got to say about that.
Is Baptist bread?
That's the same thing Grant
at the
said.
grocery store?
Yeah, they do. It's a Hawaiian bread.
Nice. What's your all-time favorite potluck Baptist potluck dish, Josh?
Mac and cheese.
Ooh, that was number 5 on the list.
But not like out of the box, but somebody's grandma making it with Velveeta, cheese, the block cheese. It's not real cheese.
And bacon.
Sorry, that was me. I didn't mean to hit that.
Oh, we didn't hear it.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, it's on preview. Well, it was this.
I fart in your general direction.
So you guys are in the middle of a serious topic on
you're talking
denominations.
We're right in the middle of the serious part.
Well, I can't stay on long. We're in the middle of moving, and I thought, you know what? I need to see the dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're glad you jumped on.
Yeah. Thanks.
We needed to see you.
Come in and take a quick dude facts.
Yeah.
Nothing like warming up at 2 a.m. with a sweaty hunk.
Needed.
My daughter's right here listening to all this, so she's getting an education. Well, do you listen to the dude facts? I gotta.
I smoked everyone just by plopping it out on the table, and I ate it like a sandwich.
That's awesome. All right.
All the good ones.
Hey, I just want to say hi. I love you guys. I will.
Love you.
I'll listen to this on Monday and be like a normal listener that has no idea what's going on, and probably check out at about 11 minutes in.
Just don't listen about halfway through because we might have to edit something out.
No, we're not editing that out.
Now I'm intrigued.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I'm out. See you guys.
All right. See ya. Oh, man. So there's no great transition, but I'll just get right into scripture. How about that? When I think about denominations, obviously the idea of unity comes to mind. And John 17:21 and 22, where Jesus says, and those who will be his followers, he says that they may all be one, just as you, Father, are in me and I in you, that they also may be in us, so that the world may believe that you have sent me. The glory that you have given me, I have given to them, that they may be one, even as we are one. And the problem with denominations is that historically they've occurred out of conflict, division, separation. There's a lot of pride, as we've already talked about. And in some cases, it's about arguing things that ultimately aren't important. David Platt just wrote this new book called Don't Hold Back, and I've got it on order, but I was able to read an excerpt from it. And in it, he uses this illustration of buckets. And he talks about all beliefs being buckets. And the first bucket should be the most non-negotiable thing when it comes to our faith, and that is that Jesus Christ is Lord. He is our salvation. It's only found in him, and it's because of his work on the cross and the resurrection. That's number one. That is the most important. But the second bucket, may have important things in it as well. Maybe for us Baptists, we might put our belief in baptism on there. The problem is as we get to those third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, 43rd buckets of importance, a lot of times we allow those to sort of pop to the forefront and be a dividing factor for us in the church. And, that could be anything from eschatological beliefs to beliefs on worship styles to what you wear in the sanctuary to the color of carpet. All those things, we allow those things to divide us. Now, some of those things, again, aren't bad things, but we often lose sight of what is most important. And I think that goes against what Jesus taught his entire ministry.
Yeah, that's breeding off this idea of first issues and secondary issues. I mean, that same thing was written about probably a generation before he wrote about it. But even before that, there's a Greek term, hatless adiaphora, which means non-essentials. Because they should be non-essential, and people make them essential. So goofy. And I think their contexts are so different. Like, it still happens out here, but in the South, people look for churches. If they're believers, they look for a denomination. Like, where are this type of church in this town? And I don't know if that's groupthink or upbringing or whatever, but here in the Northwest, it's like actually super off-putting. The church merger and the church plant, like the church plant I pastored, didn't have Baptist in our name. We participate in Southern Baptist things. We are a Southern Baptist church, but it's just not in our name because we want to win people to Christ, not our denomination, and we just want to draw that line. But we merged with a church where Baptist was in the name, and that was a huge debate during the merger, are we going to have Baptist in our name? We are still SBC, and I have this great picture of the worship leader that I inherited that was on that church staff when we merged, of her peeling off the Baptist off the church van. I wanted to make sure I had proof that it wasn't me. This young guy was not leading them away from their Baptist traditions. But yeah, it's just so needless. I mean, like to have to win people over the barrier of what Baptist means to us, not what it means to the what's that Baptist church in Texas that's like all about hate and protests?
Westboro Baptist?
Westboro.
I'm not sure where. I don't know if it's
right. Like, how are we different Baptists than they are? The non-believer, we're not. So is Baptist actually helping us share the gospel or hurting us to share the gospel? In our context, it actually hurts us to share the gospel. So, I mean, it can be confusing because it shows lack of unity in general. But on top of that, it's just often they're not clear. And they don't help actually sharing the gospel with those who have not yet heard the gospel, to whom it would be good news. Right. It doesn't help.
It's interesting because I get this question a lot in the Army when people, they see the cross on my uniform and they're like, well, what religion are you? And most of the time I think they know that I'm Christian, but they're asking what denomination am I? I tell them I'm Southern Baptist. And then it's funny, the response, because people are all over the spectrum, because Baptists are all over the spectrum, even other denominations, Episcopalian, Methodist. You see these varying degrees of these denominations. And I think you're right, Grant. I mean, if we sort of pigeonhole ourselves with that label, then, I think that can be a hindrance to the gospel sometime. There's been soldiers that, I'm happy to be that. There's some things that I don't like are going on in the Southern Baptist Convention right now, just being honest. And I've had to wrestle with that and pray through that. Absolutely. Yeah. But at the end of the day, our fundamental beliefs, that's why I'm still a Southern Baptist, because, I am, on board. But I also don't think that is the most important thing. It is Jesus. And so when a soldier comes to me and, they have a bad taste in their mouth about Baptists, My focus one is never going to be Baptist first. It's always going to be Jesus first. But
Jesus juke.
Yeah, that's right. Bam. But it's going to be, hey, you may have a legitimate bad experience with this denomination. I'm not here to convert you to this denomination. I just want you to know truth. And that's where we're going to go. And it's not about me defending or trying to disarm them or anything like that. It's just about taking them to that first bucket, what's most important.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's helpful, Jeff. Every time I saw a soldier or a sailor with the cross on them, I just thought that soldier or sailor was brought to you by the letter T.
Lowercase letter T.
Well, technically I am, because I'm also Tilden.
Yeah.
So.
And it's such like for us to, there's so many divisions, both within, denominations and denominations themselves that are based upon these really kind of tedious things a lot of times, that it's such a human response to have to something. It's like, oh, I have this disagreement with you on this. It's like, well, I'm going to go off and start my own thing over here. Rather than, hey, let's see how we can come to a common understanding. It's such like the knee jerk, reaction, selfishness, that humans are so often guilty of.
And that sort of brings us to where, I think it'd be important for us to talk about, Ryan, is, how do we effectively cross those denominational lines for the sake of the gospel? Have you guys had any experiences where it's been real positive, working with others and other denominations, where you feel like it's been effective, positive, helpful?
Dude, the first time I ever had any alcohol of any kind was at an Anglican church during communion. It was epic. Those guys are great. Thanks, Angies.
I've worked with people from Methodist denominations. I've worked with people from Episcopalians, things like that, and I've met and talked to some of the most genuine, kind-hearted, Christ-centered people that I've met in my life, and that are a part of those denominations. And the way I've always kind of approached it was when I talk to people about denominational differences and their beliefs versus what I've grown up believing, or what I something that I hold, I always approach it from hey, let's just talk about our differences. Let's not argue about them. Let's see, what do you think? What do I think? Is there any commonality in between those two things that we can, come to an agreement upon? But in the end, understand that this does not really matter in the end, as long as our goal is Christ. And I think that's been my way of bridging those denominational divides, and really I think a lot of fruitful things have come from that in my own personal life.
Yeah, the two places where I've seen it done, I think most effectively and been encouraged by it, is one, in my profession now as an Army chaplain. I think there are a lot of chaplains who do this well. In the Army, obviously, it's a pluralistic environment. It's the government. Now, I'm, a Christian, Christ-following chaplain, and I only do things that adhere to my convictions and what I believe about Jesus Christ. So I just want to clear that up, because there's a lot of people that have that misconception and think that I have to go out and perform a Catholic mass or something. No, I don't do that, because I'm not Catholic. I preach Jesus. I preach as a typical Baptist would, but we operate in a pluralistic environment, which is interesting. And if anything, I've learned a lot, but I've also had my eyes open to many men and women who genuinely love Jesus, and they want people to know him, but they're of different denominations than I am. And it's forced me to play nice, which has been good. But what I've learned is, most of the time, those other things that we let get in the way are often a small shade of importance, and the gospel is what is ultimately important. And the other place that I remember seeing that real well was actually in Midlothian. When I was in Texas, the churches there gathered of all denominations, and I think I may have mentioned it on here before, had a monthly meeting, and many different leaders of different denominations that just simply loved people and wanted to see people come to know Jesus. And the cooperation there was fantastic. We were able to do some neat events together. And I think that can happen if, again, we're keeping the gospel priority. And I think that's the key in all this.
Yeah, I mean, in Midlothian, when I was a high school student, one of my best experiences from that time was when all the churches around town got together and we planned a big, kind of, it was like back to school bash, I think is what it was at the local park. It was real big in the downtown area. And, we set it up and I played in the band with a bunch of other people. And just like that experience alone of like me working with all these other musicians from other denominations and other churches and us kind of coming together and working together towards a common goal, that experience was invaluable to me. And just my perception of other, working with other Christians. And, it was not only good for me going forward in life, but it was just a blessing to me. It was a great experience to have. And I think we could, as a whole, have more experiences like that if we would kind of, put down our barriers a little bit.
Absolutely. So obviously we know the good that can come from it. And I think we've all had experiences with that. But so what does happen when a denominational leader of a different denomination does something that we might deem as heretical? How do we react at that time? And have you ever had that experience? Putting you guys on the spot.
Yeah, there's several of the kind of Westboro inclined people in this town who have Baptist in their name. And that's ultimately one of the reasons why we left it out of our name during our church merger naming process, to just allow some distance. Because this group was quite literally knocking on doors, and no joke, if women didn't wear skirts to the floor, and if you were a believer but you weren't reading the King James version, which we always push back. Well, 1611 or what are you talking about? Like they believed you were not saved, and they just go around spewing a lot of hate. And they had a Bible study for a while, like on the opposite side of the block of where our church was meeting, and so. Yeah, it was hard we didn't want to even fight that battle of, well, let's just be Baptist, but prove what we mean when we say Baptist. Like, it doesn't matter. Let's not put it on the sign. Let us be known by our love. The world will know that we are Jesus' disciples by our love. So I don't know. I mean, it hasn't really affected us to my knowledge, other than they do soul winning way more. They call their activity knocking on doors soul winning. And they look for confrontations. That's where they pat themselves on the back and say, hey, we're stirring up trouble. God must love us right now. So that kind of affects some of the outreach and sharing of the gospel that we do in our neighborhood. But for us, it's less of we're better than them or we're different than them or we believe in the true God and they don't. We're trying to win them to Jesus, not us. So to try to just live like Jesus as much as we can and tell them about how awesome he is and not how great we are or how bad they are. Just point people to Jesus. That is kind of how we try. But
yeah, it's weird. I've had a couple of experiences with this, but it's usually those, I think, sort of like the ones you're talking about, Grant, that are, I don't know, maybe abrasive is a good word. Maybe putting some of their energy and passion into some of the wrong things to purposely be offensive. I remember when I was a seminary student, seeing some Christians, folks that called themselves Christians, protesting at a baseball game. And I thought the way that they were doing it and the language they were using on their signs was awful. And I went up to him and I said, do you really think that this is the most effective use of your time for the kingdom? And of course, I was just a young, cocky seminary student at the time. I probably was a little prideful and abrasive myself in my communication with them, but man, they just got so angry back at me, and it almost like sort of proved my point, if you will. It was like, clearly there's no love of Jesus here. You're here because you're angry about something. And then when I was at West Point as a chaplain, again, you have to work in this, I'll call it a non-denominational environment as a Protestant, but a group of us chaplains got together and we wanted to do we didn't call it revival, but sort of awakening type service, just worship and Bible study. And I was able to link in with the pastor, actually not the pastor, but one of the pastors on staff at Hillsong in New York. Now, I don't completely see eye to eye with everything that comes out of Hillsong, but, in talking with the guy, having lunch with him, he just wanted to come encourage cadets and preach Jesus. And I'm all about that. And so we had, a worship team from Hillsong come in, and we pitched it to the cadets. Hey, come in and, let's worship together and, hear a good message. And it was a fantastic night. We had like 600 or 700 cadets there. A lot of cadets just, on fire, following up with a lot who were really asking good questions and pursuing.
Did you call the fire department?
We almost had to, because they did have a fog machine and that in the auditorium.
It was smoking.
But while we were doing that, I later found out that there was a small group of cadets in another auditorium, like a couple hundred feet away, that were actively praying almost against what we were doing. And these were cadets who I knew a few of them, had great conversations with. We saw eye to eye a lot, like, very, very solid biblically, but they felt that, anything that came out of Hillsong or anything that, didn't particularly preach their style of Jesus, was wrong, was the wrong pursuit. And they even were to the point of where they would disassociate themselves from the body of believers there. And they would meet in rooms in their barracks, or even in like little house churches, because they just wanted to sort of separate themselves. And, I found it very bothersome, because to me, that's very divisive. It was funny because I agree with, a lot of the things that they would agree with in those maybe third, fourth, fifth buckets. But I didn't agree with the fact that they were putting those over the primary bucket, which is the gospel. That's what's important.
Mm-hmm. And I think you see a lot of times with being here in Tennessee, especially around Nashville, there's several churches that practice, that are part of fundamentalist organizations that use their church and their platform to spread hate or their own political ideologies instead of the gospel. And I think that's definitely a part where we need to come, at a hardline stance and be like, that is wrong. Like that's something that we can, point at and be like, this is not a minute difference. This is, you are putting yourself over the gospel and kingdom work, and that is wrong. And, I definitely think that's something where, as when we talk about denominational differences, there are some hard lines we need to take.
Some of those loud, obnoxious, hateful believers, I just want to...
I wish you could just shut your big yapper!
That's what I want to do. Well, we haven't talked about non-denominational churches.
You mean lying Baptists?
Are they just non-committal? What's up?
Yeah.
It's interesting. Is that just a denomination itself?
Well, so out here, there are just so few Southern Baptist churches in the Northwest. Like our state convention is the Northwest Baptist Convention. So it's Oregon, Washington, and the Panhandle of Idaho is our state convention. And from time to time, other, especially non-denoms, will hear about the benefits of partnering together for missions. Like we're not a large church, but we can send people overseas for international missions because we all love the same Jesus and share in missions giving. And we could send someone from our church to a training center and have them shipped overseas with full benefits. It's amazing. So other churches will hear about that kind of partnership and say, oh, we want in. And most of them are non-denominational who want to join with the Northwest Baptist Convention, which is pretty cool. But they're just lying Baptists. Oh, what are their doctrinal distinctives? Oh, we baptize believers. Oh, that's novel. I've never heard of that before.
Their pastor wears Jordans on stage.
Okay.
That's the distinctive.
Oh, don't get me started. Nike headquarters is 20 miles that way, okay? Like, this is sneaker culture out here, that even though they're all soggy, it's the north wet. But come on, stop trying hard. You're a white dude. You drive a minivan.
You don't wear Jordans when you preach?
Stop. I have a couple pairs of Jordans I work out in and play basketball in. But no, I wear, like, Vans. I actually wear Birkenstocks a lot. But especially the clog Boston type.
Nice.
I wear Jordan.
I wear those more than anything else.
I don't know if that counts.
Yeah. You can get away with that as a worship leader, right?
Yeah. Same with the tattoos.
Yeah. Tattoo, hat.
Yep.
Yeah. All that stuff. You can unbutton your shirt a little bit, show some chest hair.
Oh, yeah. Plenty of that.
Can't do that as a pastor. You got to have that like nice, clean cut look as a pastor, right?
Yeah, because we don't want anything to distract from
Jesus, Juke.
my shoes and my chest hair.
All right, guys. Hey, great conversation today. I think we have clearly exhausted our invitation to all those who made it this far.
Yeah.
So we're going to tell you guys farewell and adieu. We love you.
Mm-hmm.
Josh will be back. We promise it just won't be us three. You'll get Jay Philly and his great contribution to this podcast on the next Dude Facts. But we want you guys to stay tuned this week for some special things. Comment, interact, and tell your friends about Dude Facts. And if you do get a Dude Facts shirt, wear it and post it on social media because we want to see all the Dude Facts love out there. All right, guys, it was real. We will see you next time.
Bag of wolves.
Yep.